You've probably heard of the Metaverse. And if you did, chances are that you also heard about Web3, but most likely you have no idea what either of them mean. And even if you think you do, you've probably heard biased, undocumented personal opinions saying that Facebook's change into Meta and their insanely expensive investments into developing this mysterious Metaverse is one of the biggest flops in tech history. Well, I'm sorry to break it out to you, but this couldn't be more wrong, and today I'll explain what these concepts really mean while also giving you a hint towards why this will not only completely change the way people use the internet, but also the way we interact with each other, building effectively a whole new economy. Let's dive in. What is Web 3.0? Obviously, to grasp the concept of Web 3.0, you must be aware of the fact that there has been a Web 1.0 and the current layout of the internet is basically called Web 2.0, hence the name of Web 3.0 has been attributed to what's coming next. But let's actually see the real differences between these stages and what kind of changes need to happen with the actual technology in order for a new number to be attributed to the concept of web. Starting from the 90s and ending around 2004 with the creation of Facebook, the first era of the internet was characterized by mostly static pages, which once you loaded them did literally nothing other than displaying the actual content, which was mostly just text. There was no interaction whatsoever with the user, no logging in, no nothing. At this point, if you accessed the web page, you would have been a mere consumer, just consuming the information or whatever it was that you were reading about on that particular page. Think of it as a digital library where every web page would basically be the equivalent of a book. You can open it, read it, and if you get bored, you can try and go for something else, get another book off the shelf and read that instead. But this is virtually all you can do. There's not that many options. This is also why the first iteration of the internet is commonly referred to as read-only. Now, Facebook came around, and it wasn't just Facebook, but a lot of new apps and websites, some of which died pretty quickly but left an important mark nonetheless, while others are still around and they're doing fairly well. I mean, just think of the platform you're using right now to watch this video. That's right, Web 2.0 was the age of user-generated content. The concepts of social media and video sharing came to life, and if you think of the biggest companies in the world today, you'll realize that a lot of them are directly associated with these concepts. Now, the main differences between Web 1.0 and this new interactive era was that now, you needed to log in using an email and password, and you'd be a registered user rather than just a random IP address accessing the web page. More than that, the whole thing relied on users to actually generate the content that other users consume. I mean, you've been watching YouTube for years now, and have you seen a single video actually made by YouTube itself? Think of my video that you're watching right now. I'm just a user, I'm not part of the YouTube team or anything, but sure, if I do well enough, I could get paid for my work due to another central aspect of Web 2.0. Advertising. All these businesses rely on advertising to turn in a profit, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as if it wasn't for ads, all the apps you're using on a regular basis would most likely not exist, since it just wouldn't be financially possible. Then the internet as we know it today, which is Web 2.0, has two main characteristics that define its existence. The user is a consumer and a creator at the same time, and targeted advertising made it possible for these companies, and even for creators in some instances like YouTube, for example, to generate revenue and create sustainable business models. What you've all been waiting for. What's coming next for our experience and interactions in the online world? Well, Web 3.0 stands for a new version of the internet, which is supposed to use blockchain technology in order to enable users to become not only consumers and creators, but also owners of their digital items, be they videos they post online or items to be used across games and metaverses, like digital clothes or just a digital hammer or something, I don't know. Basically everything, you can own it. Now, if you're not really familiar with the concept of NFTs, blockchain and things like that, you should go watch a video on them when you finish this one, because they're gonna be the literal foundation of Web 3.0. Now, to give you a more specific example of how this change could affect your online experience in the near future, think of any subscription-based website where you need to pay a fee and then log in using your credentials so you can access the content on their page. If this website was running on a blockchain technology, it could require users to buy an NFT which would act as a membership ticket, and then log in using their crypto wallet, which would gain them access instantly, as the technology behind it would automatically recognize the required NFT as being in their wallet. Now sure, this may sound as an insignificant change, but keep in mind that this is not the future that I'm talking about, as this is already happening, and even if you didn't hear of them, there are already a couple of online academies and other membership-based exclusive communities that are in fact using this system. And maybe the biggest opportunity this gives to users is selling their membership if they don't want it anymore for whatever reason, so you can end up not losing any money or even making a profit if there's a high demand for the particular community you're in. Now let me link all of these with metaverses and shed some light mainly on what Facebook is doing, because their efforts have been making waves in the media and you probably want to know what's going on. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is that there is no such thing as the metaverse, as there will actually be thousands of metaverses that will ultimately be connected with each other, allowing users to freely jump or travel between them, creating an experience which could be described as being in the metaverse, even though they're actually separate entities from each other. Now, let me explain this whole thing. What exactly is a metaverse? A lot of people have difficulties understanding this concept, and I can't blame them, to be honest, because the definitions that have been put out are kinda confusing. In the simplest of terms, a metaverse is an online interactive world where people can engage in certain activities. This sounds really simple, and it's because it is. Think of any open world online video game. This is literally the definition of that. So are they actually metaverses and you just didn't know it? Well, not really, and there's a subtle but crucial difference between the two. A metaverse is supposed to run on blockchain technology using NFTs for all the items and even avatars involved in it, thus allowing users to own them. Think of it this way. You open up GTA Online and start moving around with your character who's holding a hammer in his hand. Now both your avatar and the items he's holding are actually NFTs you bought at some point, which are living on the blockchain, so they're not directly tied with GTA. At any point you can just turn it off and jump into Fortnite, for example, using the same exact avatar and hammer you were using in GTA, and it worked just fine because you own them on the blockchain, so outside of the specific games you're using them in. These interconnected online worlds will form the experience that people refer to as the metaverse. Now throw a pair of VR glasses on while doing the same thing, and you've got Zuckerberg's idea of the metaverse. Simple as that. Well, this is the concept behind it, but obviously these companies will compete against each other to convince users in spending as much time as they can in their particular online world, so what I described earlier may be a little bit utopian, and it could take some time until the metaverse actually reaches that stage. More than that, not only Facebook, but a lot of companies are building towards that direction, and even though the media attention fell on the earlier because, well, they literally changed their name into Meta, among other things, other huge companies are really putting in effort for the same goal effectively. You may have heard of Snapchat, for example, or Artifact, one of the biggest Web3 brands that was founded in 2019 and is now running some of the most prominent NFT projects while also being involved in VR and bridging the gap between digital and real very quickly. Well, you might have not heard of it yet, honestly, but you probably heard about its parent company, Nike. I'm not joking, one of the biggest companies in the world, which is not even involved in tech, bought this startup for a fortune, so this should give you a reason to look into it. Now, I just want to clear one huge misconception regarding this whole thing, that Facebook's metaverse or its name changing into Meta was a flop. Adoption is the hardest part in any new technology's life, and you can think of the internet. In its early days, people used to think it won't have any use whatsoever, calling it a flop as well, and look what it's become now. Snapchat has had the technology for normal looking VR glasses from as early as the first half of the 2010s, and they even released them in 2016, but only in a limited edition because they knew people would be apprehensive at first. Familiarizing the masses with the new technology is the first step for its establishment and adoption, so Facebook's change into Meta is no more than a statement of full commitment to this new endeavor and a subtle act of acquainting people with a metaverse.